Welcome to the Call Your Shot podcast, your weekly sports recap podcast where we break down the hottest headlines, dissect the latest injuries, and serve up our own hard-hitting analysis of the past week in sports. But that's not all. We're not just here to talk about the past, we're here to predict the future as well. On the Call Your Shot podcast, we boldly predict the outcomes of the upcoming week's games.
Fair enough. Okay, fair enough. So, going to the NFC, touched on the Eagles. We can go to the NFC East, as we talked about, probably the surprise of the league when it comes to, or one of the surprises, I guess. There's been a lot of kind of underdogs that ended up kind of being the top. But you have the Washington Commanders, who have looked great. Jaden McDaniels not only is the front runner for Rookie of the Year, but is probably a top 3 to 5 MVP candidate, has looked great for the team. And this is a team that we're like, okay, they lost a lot of weapons because they traded Jahan Dotson and all that kind of stuff. So it's just Terry McLaurin and Zach Ertz. So we didn't think that they'd be able to do too much in that, but they've looked great. It's been super efficient, been one of the highest scoring teams in the league, and their defense has still been giving up a good amount of points, but it's basically like a shootout, and Jaden McDaniels has been basically cooking people. So they've looked great. Any thoughts on the Commanders real quick?
I mean, the offense is great. The defense is like,
yep.
I don't want to say historically bad, but they are not it. Like they're pretty bad. And we kind of saw what happens when they run into a team that can actually keep up with them with the with
lost the Ravens, but they
with the Ravens last week
beat the Bengals.
Yeah, to where they can put up points with the best of them. They can score and all day every day, it doesn't matter. But if the defense isn't gonna stop a nosebleed, then that's going to be a problem going forward. And if you want to take your game up to the next level and you want to be a contender, then you're going to need to be able to have at least a middle of the pack team to where you can not just play in these games that are 40 to 45 and 35 to 37 and stuff like that. So Jaden McDaniels, I mean, I don't want to be a prisoner at the moment, but I've always loved him, always been a fan of his. I have been critical about Caleb Williams, and so far I've been mostly correct, especially because the games where well, look who they're playing, sir. the games where he's throwing for 300 yards. Look at Caleb Williams. Oh, he's throwing for all these touchdowns. Oh my God, this is so amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, it's against the Rams, who have nobody out there. They're literally playing with a JV high school team out there, players you never heard of.
Yeah, and then they played against Carolina.
Played against Carolina. Who does Carolina have on their defense? You can't name anybody on their defense other than J.C. Horn.
J.C. Horn.
Okay, and then they played against Jacksonville, who's given up 400 yards to just about every team except for one. So Caleb Williams.
All right, this turned into the Caleb Williams trash hour. We're not even in that division yet.
You got me distracted, man. You get me all hot and bothered out here talking about. I started barking.
Hey, I'm just saying he's good.
Caleb Williams?
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, Caleb Williams, he's going to be good. But yeah, Jaden McDaniels probably is the clear front runner. I agree with you. Offense is great. Defense is trash. But I mean, I feel like they're ahead of schedule. I don't think that the Commanders honestly had many expectations. I didn't think that they thought that they're going to be a playoff team coming into this season. But I feel like they're ahead of schedule. Jaden McDaniels has looked very NFL ready. And yeah, I think they've looked great so far. Can't really ask for much more.
I was gonna say one last thing about their defense. Do you know? You're gonna take a ballpark guess of what percentage of plays, whenever a team gets into the red zone, that they convert into a touchdown
against the Commanders?
Yeah, against the Commanders.
62.
Close, 70%. Basically, if you get within the 20 yards,
you get there
20 yards, 70% chance you're going to score.
Okay.
Only teams that are worse than them, the Cowboys, who just gave up a 40 piece. The Panthers, we know who the Panthers are, and then the Jaguars. That they give up 76% of red zone touchdowns. So, I'm just
Yikes.
saying, like it's not pretty back there.
Yikes.
So
So moving on, we have the Eagles who are sitting at 3-3 in the division, or 3-2 actually. I don't know what to think about the Eagles because, like, on one hand, like I feel like they've had some good wins. They beat obviously the Packers when Jordan Love and their whole team is healthy, but then they have the basically choke job against the Falcons, and then they're just like squeaking out these victories. So the wins that they do have, they beat the Packers by 5, they beat the Saints by 3, and then they beat the Browns last week by 4. And we already know what the Browns are. I feel that it's a combination of they haven't had AJ Brown, they hadn't have AJ Brown or Devontae Smith against the Buccaneers, so I kind of scrap that one. But still have Saquon, and now you have Saquon, you have AJ, full healthy allotment of players. So I feel like they're going to be fine going forward. 3 of their next 4 games I feel like are very winnable. You have the Giants, the Jaguars, and I don't know. The Bengals, I guess you could say, is just depending on how they go forward. But I mean, I still am confident that the Eagles can still win this division. But do you have any hesitations in with choosing them possibly to make the playoffs, or do you feel like they're going to be fine?
I believe that was my Super Bowl pick, wasn't it?
Okay. All right.
Eagles, Eagles.
Yeah, the Eagles
So,
can't score.
I mean, look, our problem isn't scoring, all right? Our problem
Yes, it
is
is.
stopping teams on defense. And the
After,
fact that the
what?
Browns the fact that the Browns weren't able to do really anything on offense just shows you what kind of state that they're in right now. But as far as the Eagles go, in terms of a team as a whole, um, Nick Sirianni is ruffling some more feathers as he does.
He's low
And
key on the chopping block. I ain't gonna lie to you.
yeah, and when he did that last year, when he started like barking at folks after the game against the Chiefs, they went like 2-6 or something like that to close out the season. So
Yep.
hopefully that doesn't happen. But coincidentally, that time frame also matched up with them playing through a whole gauntlet of teams with on short rest and like on some crazy travel schedule last year, and then the back half of their season, they kind of just fell apart because of injuries to Hurts and stuff like that. They're healthy right now. They're doing better, other than Goddard, whatever. But at the same time, their their run their run game is still dominant. You still can't stop the tush push. Anytime they're within 1 to 2 yards, we already know it's going to be converted. And now that
All
AJ's
that.
back, you got
They're averaging 17 points per game since week 1.
shut up. um, we'll be
17
okay.
points, Drew.
Okay,
Okay. All
we'll
right.
be okay.
Yep.
And I mean, am I worried? No, man, I'm not. I'm not worried.
Scale of 1 to 10. 10 being press the panic button, 0 being kick my feet up in Cabo.
Well, I'll say like a 4. There's moderate concern for sure.
Couple beads of sweat.
Yeah, but I'll go back into the sauna and I'll still cook though.
Okay.
I'm not,
All right.
I'm not run away
I
from the
think they'll
heat.
be fine. I agree with you. I think they will be fine.
And
A team that I do not know. Oh, go
well,
ahead.
one thing real quick too, is that again playing the schedule game. It looks pretty nice going forward too. Bro, are you
I
kidding
mean,
me?
that's what I said. The 2 of their next 3 games that should win, but the Bengals aren't no cakewalk. And then I still think that they have to play. Who is it? Then they have to play the
Baltimore.
Commanders. The Cowboys are always a tough game. I don't know if the first game is at the Cowboys or at the
Bro, the
yeah.
Cowboys, like at this point, the Cowboys are who they are right now. Like they are what their record is, and they are what the
Yep.
stats say they are right now.
It's about the same as the Eagles.
Stop. They're not out here giving up 40 burgers to.
Hey, the Eagles haven't played the Lions, so.
All right, it's fair.
But like, yeah, there you go. So the Cowboys have been they got absolute mollywops by the Lions. It was bad. I watched that game and I was like, oh, maybe they could get a stop here, and it'd be like 3rd and 13, and then Jared Goff would throw like a 60-yard bomb touchdown to Jameson Williams. It's like, bro,
Hmm.
like they can't stop anybody. They can't run the ball. They had the one game against the Giants where it'd be like, oh, this is our, this is our stop here. We're gonna become here, get our identity back and run the ball. And then since then, it's still been bad. And I think that's a testament to the fact that obviously you had Micah Parsons get hurt. You had a whole bunch of injuries on the defensive line as well. But I mean, they made no improvements really to their defense or to their
Anything.
offense in the offseason. They didn't make no noise. Obviously, this has been a big trade period over this past week. They're like, oh no, Amari Cooper, you used to be here. You're really good with a good tandem with CD. Nah, don't want you. Devontae Adams, oh yeah, you're a Hall of Famer. Nah, don't want you. And like, I mean, a lot of teams have kind of been bracketing CD, and Jalen Tolbert has kind of stepped up as like a number 2 option, and then Ferguson's always been fine, reliable tight end, but like they just aren't able to really move the ball consistently on offense. They don't really have a good identity, and Dak Prescott's throwing interceptions, and the defense is trash. So I mean, they
like,
look middle of the pack.
yeah, and I mean, not all of it is on Dak, to be honest. Like, sure, he could be playing a little better. Yeah, sure.
I
Everybody
mean,
can be
he's the
doing a little better at their
highest
job.
paid player in NFL history, right? I'm just saying.
Okay, but at the same time, um, it's kind of hard to have a good passing game when like, if you're relying on your boy Rico Dowell for offense, like, you
I
got
told
a
you he was going to
problem.
lead them in rushing, didn't I? And I'm just saying.
And
And you picked him up, didn't you?
hey man, I'd try anything for at least one.
I tried one time.
Exactly.
I think the week you picked him up, he ended up going out like the week he went off. He had like 20 points or something like that. And I was like,
Mhm.
okay, this bullshit.
But yeah, and okay, but also, with all that too, the
Mm-hmm.
not only do they not have a running game, and they have the corpse of of Zeke. um
Yeah.
they their offensive line is one of the worst in the league, and it's not looking like it's going to get any better anytime soon. They currently have a pass protection grade of 52.2. Um, that's 28th in the league. Only teams worse than that are the Patriots, the Browns, the Saints, who have literally everybody hurt on their team, and the Rams, who everybody got hurt on their team, and then those people that backed up those people got hurt as well. So it's basically like having me and you out there on the offensive line. Those are the only teams that are worse than the Cowboys there in that metric. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, it's
not
bad.
all on Dak, but
And the defense was already bad, but then obviously you had the injury to Micah. You have DeMarcus Lawrence on IR. I mean, Brandon Cooks is on IR. So I mean, like it's not great. You already obviously had Deron Bland
31st
on IR,
out of
but it's
32 teams,
yeah,
31st out of 32
it,
teams on defense.
it ain't too pretty. And then lastly, we had the New York Giants, who I mean, they had okay. I'll give them this. Obviously, I don't think that you should have paid Daniel Jones the 160 for 4 years a couple years ago, and choosing him over Saquon and all this
Let
kind of
him
stuff. I'm
cook.
not gonna lie, he hasn't looked good at all by any means. He's looked better this year. I think that's a testament to Malik Neighbors, and to a lesser degree like Wandale Robinson and all of them, Darius Slayton. But like Malik Neighbors is the real deal, and obviously it was unfortunate. He was tearing up the league and ended up getting his concussion, so he's been out the past couple weeks, and hopefully he plays this week. But yeah, I think Malik Neighbors is really nice, and when Malik Neighbors is in the game, Daniel Jones actually looks like a competent quarterback to some degree. And yeah, they ain't winning no division. They ain't coming close. They ain't having a winning record or anything like that. But I mean, I like watching Malik Neighbors. So
That's fair. And I mean, their defense actually has held up
yeah, the
pretty
defense
well
actually been
too.
solid.
They've been getting a decent amount of pressures on quarterbacks and stuff. But now, there's talks about like, okay, well, now that everybody's starting to trade, now they're going to start picking some pieces off some of these teams, and so that
Mm-hmm.
that aspect might be gone for them as well too. So we'll I don't know. We'll see what ends up happening whenever if these trades end up going down for some of these D linemen. But yeah,
Yeah, their defense actually been good. Their defensive line's been good. Dexter Lawrence is like I think like second in the league in sacks. He's like 7. So I think other than Aiden Hutchinson, who has like 7.5, and obviously he's hurt now. So hey, but I
mm-hmm.
mean, they're still the Giants. So moving on to the NFC North, who has the rare chance to be one of those rare divisions in the league that could possibly have all 4 teams make the playoffs. You have Minnesota Vikings, who major surprise are undefeated. This is coming off of losing Kirk Cousins. This is coming off of JJ McCarthy being out for the season, and you know who's running that ship though, right? Over in Minnesota, my boy Sam Darnold. You know what I'm saying? Sam Darnold, Baker
I will
Mayfield type
never be a
season. We
fan. I will
hey
never be a
hey
believer. I don't care
hey
what happened. He could win
hey.
MVP.
We
I'm just
5-0. We 5-0, and we beaten good. They've beaten the 49ers. They've beaten the Texans. They've beaten the Packers. And if they beat the Lions this week, I mean, like, there's not much more that you can say negative about the Vikings and about Sam Darnold, bro.
I
I
mean,
mean,
okay, but
he's
at the same
4th in
time, like
touchdowns. You know
I
what I'm
don't think
saying?
like I don't think y'all realize like how much Aiden Hutchinson means to this team. I believe he even if he
Oh no,
misses like
no,
the
most
next
definitely.
if he misses like the next 2 weeks, he'll still be
Mm-hmm.
leading the league in pressures. Like
Yeah, but I'm saying
that's
that
how
like
good he is.
there's other teams that we evaluate them. Like obviously the Chiefs been without like Pacheco and Rasheed Rice, but if a team were to beat the Chiefs, they'd be like, wow, that's still a good win. 49ers been without Christian McCaffrey, they've been without Debo. If somebody beats the 49ers, they're like, damn, that's still a good win. But you're gonna say
Bro.
that if the Vikings beat the Lions and they don't have Aiden Hutchinson, you're gonna be like, well, I mean, shit, they were supposed to do that. What? That ain't fair.
The next closest person to
Okay.
um I'm just saying like
Who's more important to? No, fine. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I mean no, go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Harris.
You
I
know what
want
I'm
to hear what
saying?
you have to
I
say.
think that Christian McCaffrey, from an offensive perspective, seen last year when he was the offense player of the year, is just as important than Aiden Hutchinson, who is obviously the Lions' best defensive player. But we are still evaluating teams that beat or lose to the 49ers very highly. And, you know, the Lions just mollywop the Cowboys, and Aiden Hutchinson didn't play that full game. So, I mean, like, shoot. If the Vikings win, I'm still going to be impressed.
The next
So
closest person the
do you
next
have okay?
closest person to Aiden Hutchinson in terms of total pressures is Nick Bosa, who has 35, whereas Aiden Hutchinson has 45. So
Why only got him? Why on throws all sack? We just talked about Dexter Lawrence. He's only half a sack behind the man.
I mean, it depends on where you look. I mean, they're tied on PFF. So, but
Mm. So you're not going to be. So do you have the Vikings winning this week against the Lions? Then since it's what should happen, right? Because you know
well, see,
the Lions are going to be without Aaron Donald. So
let me see what my model has here. I mean, I have the Lions winning this week. Um, but
uh,
I don't know, man. I
other
think
than the Chiefs, I think you could even argue. I feel like the Vikings have had the toughest schedule in the NFL and are one of the only 2 undefeated teams in the league.
mm,
And this is without them having TJ Hawkinson. This is without them having Jordan
fair.
Addison for a couple games. This is without them having Aaron Jones for a game. But I mean, I'm not saying that like Sam Darnold has been the reason why. I think he's been a great game manager. Their
What
defense
it
has
sounds
been
like.
absolutely insane. And Brian Flores, like people like who is it? Um, Brock Purdy has talked about it. CJ Stroud's talked about it. Like the defensive schemes that they have on defense have like been disgusting, and they've actually, yeah, it's been great.
If
And Sam
if
Donald's
we
also been very good.
if we look at the teams though that like they've played, the
Bro,
Giants, we know who the Giants are. The 49ers,
bro.
okay, yeah, the 49ers are a solid team, but they had literally nobody out there. They didn't even have Debo. They barely had
Debo
Kittle
played
out
that
there.
game. That was the game that Debo got hurt at the end, but he finished the game.
Okay, well, whatever. But didn't have
Texans.
okay, Texans. Yeah, that's a nice win. But at the same time,
You said that's
they didn't
cute.
they didn't have Joe Mixon, so they were running with Dario Gumbawale or whoever the hell that they had out there. I don't even know half their running backs, but
Hmm.
and then
So you're saying
against the
all their wins are
Packers,
fugazi because
the,
they haven't played a team that's been
the
fully healthy.
exactly the Packers. You know,
Okay.
Jordan Love was just coming off of his knee injury there, and then the New York Jets, they were still playing games and they didn't even know what their offense was looking like. They were playing with the coach that they just fired. So I'm just saying, like, and well, for one as well too, the Jets have one of the worst offensive lines in the league, which also doesn't help the case. Same thing with the Texans, who also have a terrible offensive line, which dampened their overall offense production. I'm just like, there's so
I'm
many
just happy
reasons,
for
Mr.
Sam.
Harris. I'm just saying.
I'm just happy for Sam. I ain't gonna lie. I think that this is gonna be, if I had to choose between this being like, oh, the Vikings are just like actually legit and they could go to the Super Bowl, or it's gonna be more of the season that they had a couple or a few seasons ago, maybe. I don't remember what player was that with Kirk, when they went like 13-4 randomly, but then lost to the Giants as a the Giants wild card Giants in the first round. I feel like it's closer to
Mhm.
that one. But I mean, we're gonna enjoy the ride while it's going on. So
Oh my
happy for
god.
you, Sam. Yeah, get your bag. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, the Dolphins, or not the Dolphins, the
See,
Lions,
well,
who are second in the division.
okay. Well, I was just gonna say one thing. Like, I'm probably just gonna stay away from this game in general because it it just screams a trap. Like it's got to be a trap kind of thing. um,
Screams 303 touchdowns from Sam
bro,
Darnold.
I
That's what
can't
it
even have
screams.
that. But you know, the Lions, they're getting 70% of the bets. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I
It's because they
I
just saw them mollywop the Cowboys, and the people are like, well, the Vikings aren't legit.
yeah, and that's the thing. So like, my even though my model has it has the Lions by 4, it's not a play on
I'll take
uh
the Vikings plus
on my
4
model.
against
So
you. That's fine. That's
I'm not
fine.
playing that.
We can do
The
that.
model doesn't say to
No,
play
no,
it, so I'm not playing it. God damn it.
all right, fair enough. So, the Detroit Lions, obviously, we just talked about it, came off the huge win against the Cowboys. They've been great. They kind of had who was their one loss to this season? They had the loss to the Buccaneers in week 2. That was still a very close game. Yeah,
Mhm.
but they've been great. They've been obviously the dynamic duo. David Montgomery ended up getting a contract extension. It's been a great 1-2 punch with him and Jahmyr Gibbs. A lot of people were hoping, for fantasy purposes, that Jahmyr Gibbs would kind of take more of a primary role in the running backfield, but it's literally been a 1-2 punch, and they've had very similar stats. And it doesn't seem like they're going to try to veer away from the Thunder Lightning approach anytime soon. Amon-Ra's been great, and it's really kind of been the emergence of Jameson Williams. We both talked about it going into the preseason. Is he going to be able to take that step forward? And he really has stepped up. So now you have him, Amon-Ra, Laporta, the running backs. I mean, it's a nasty offense. Obviously, the loss of Aiden Hutchinson on defense is going to hurt a lot, but I feel like this team honestly can outscore anybody on any given day. So, I mean, I think the Lions are going to be a major contender in the NFC again.
Yeah, and you know, like regardless of you know, who they end up like putting out there, honestly, it just seems like their chemistry of that team is more than, I mean, yeah, more than the talent, but it definitely helps the talent that they have around the guys, and I think that that's what helps them kind of plug and play certain players, and that's kind of like the Lions' identity of the team, right? It's like, you know, a bunch of glue guys, blue collar guys out there that are going to play
Shout
harder
out
than the
Dan
next person
Campbell.
and stuff. Yeah, and so like in my on my model, like I have the Lions ranked as the number 1 team right now. I'll probably have to like adjust it a little bit because of, you know, loss of Ada Hutchinson and everything. But
Mhm.
and I think it's hilarious too. This is all based on, you know, stats and everything. There's no bias in here at all. Um, and the interesting thing is that number 2 team right now is the Vikings. So in terms of matching up with like the like win percentages and matching up with overall performance so far, like, yeah, like that statistically makes sense that the Vikings, you know, they're undefeated. I have them as my number 2 team. The Lions arguably should be undefeated, but there's a lot of suspect calls in that game, and it could have gone either way. But here we are.
That's crazy. Is this
Um,
in just the conference, or is this like this in the NFL?
NFL.
Because your model has the Vikings over the Chiefs at this current moment in time.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at what the Chiefs have done so far this season, they've more so escaped games with wins as opposed to won games. Um, so I wouldn't necessarily say that like if Super Bowl was today and it was the Lions against the Chiefs, I'd probably 100% take the Lions without blinking. I'd probably blink a couple
I
times because
mean,
it's Patrick Mahomes, but it's but I definitely take the Lions over over the Chiefs. Now that being said, if Juju is going to turn back the clock, if Kareem Hunt is all of a sudden the 2016 version or whatever year that was of himself, and then Aiden Hutchinson is gone, and then they don't have anybody else that can rush the passer. Sure, they still have they have Branch back there in the secondary and stuff, and I love him too. But you know, I'd have my hesitations for sure. But I gotta I
fair
gotta see a
enough.
larger sample size from the Chiefs, other than it's Mahomes, it's Andy Reid, it's Travis Kelsey. Like they're just gonna do it. Like that's not a
Well, it hasn't been like them. Like it's been like the fact that they've lost so many people offensively. Patrick Mahomes has not been anywhere close to what we expect from Patrick Mahomes, but they're still winning these games because their defense is like elite. And at the end of the day, in a clutch situation, even Patrick Mahomes is playing bad. If I'm like in a 2 minute drive or if I need a game winning field goal, yeah, all in on Patrick Mahomes. But I mean, that's not necessarily like a statistic that you can argue for why they should be better. That's just like, well, chips are on the table, playoff wise. Yeah, I'll give it to my homeboy any day. Don't care.
Mhm. Yeah.
But that's fair enough about the Lions. So Green Bay sitting at 4-2, third in the division, tied with the Bears. Um, I don't I don't know how to feel about Green Bay. Jordan Love obviously battled through the injuries, and Malik Davis ended up going 2-0. So Jordan Love is 2-2 as a starter for Green Bay this season. So they're 4-2 overall. Great wide receiver core, great young wide receiver core. Josh Jacobs still been the thumper for them, hasn't necessarily been hyper efficient, but he's not known to be. Their defense has been good, but I mean, I don't know. I think we both talked about it a few weeks ago. Like, I don't know. I just don't have great faith in the pack. I don't think that they're, I don't know. I don't think they're all that great. I don't know what it is. There's no
I don't
specific reason.
know.
Their offense is good. Their defense is good. They have a good running game. They have great young receivers. But I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like it either. Honestly, like it shouldn't work. Like what they're doing shouldn't work. But then I'm not sure if it's like Lifle that's able to, make the engine run, or like what it is, but
They've had a pretty
clearly
easy start to the season, though.
so
Like they've had, as I said, they've had a pretty cupcake schedule to start. The two actual good teams being the Packers or being the Eagles and the Vikings are the two teams that they lost to. But then they played the Colts with Anthony Richardson. They played the Titans with Will Levis. They played the Rams, who would decimate it, and then they played the Cardinals, who didn't even have Marvin Harrison Jr. because he got concussed. So I mean, like
also now you want to
next
play
they
the schedule game.
no, but you said that the Vikings actually played good teams. Like these aren't good. The Titans aren't a good team. The Colts aren't a good team. The Rams with nobody in the wide receiver room aren't a good team. The Cardinals without Marvin
Yeah.
Harrison Jr. are not a good team. So yeah,
Yeah. But I mean, that's the crazy thing though too, is like, that's where stats can be misleading and stuff too. It's the pass blocking for the Packers right now is number one in the league, and in terms of EPA per play, that's taken away by sacks. They're number one in term, which means that like they're not allowing any pressures to dictate some of Jordan Love's throws. So he's able to just sit back there, pat the ball. Okay, who's open? Dobbs isn't open. Is Watson open back there? No, he just tore his other hamstring again. Like he's not open. Okay, let me look over here. Look over here. Okay, let's just give it to Jaden Reed. Jaden Reed.
Yeah, I don't like how their fifth string wide receiver just looks elite, just randomly. I'm like, bro, how many
Legit.
do y'all have? Dontavian Wicks, randomly.
And so, yeah, I don't get it. I don't understand their offense. It doesn't make any sense to me. Josh Jacobs, like maybe he's good, maybe he's not. I don't know. The whole team is just a mystery, but their offensive line is legit though. Like whatever they want to do on offense, they're able to do because of the O line. And as long as that's the case, then they're going to be pretty successful against just about any team, except for a handful of teams that can actually stop the run or stop the or has a good secondary as well. Like if you go against the Ravens, then they're probably not going to fare all that well. However, if they play against the Seahawks, you're going to run all over them. It's going to be a bloodbath. So yeah.
Thanks. So, finish up the division. We have the Bears, who are sitting at 4-2. Caleb Williams has looked better each and every game, and just came off that London game where he had 300 yards and 4 touchdowns, something like that. I don't know, but I feel like the story for the Bears more so has been their defense. Their defense is what's kept them in games, and I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel like if Caleb Williams continues to improve, the defense stays elite. I don't know why they can't be a wild card team. And they have a big game this week against the Commanders, and then you have the battle of the rookies with Caleb and Jaden Daniels. So, I mean, why do you hate the Bears? I don't understand. Why?
I don't hate the Bears. Like,
why do you hate Caleb? What did he do to you? From USC?
I mean,
what do you mean?
Yeah, he's just not. He's not it. Like sure, it's early on in the season. I want to overreact or anything like that. But I mean, to be fair, I talked about this all throughout, like before the season started and during the season as well.
We both didn't say he was going to be Patrick Mahomes coming in. He ain't going to throw no 50 touchdowns to start.
Yeah,
but
that's what I'm saying. Like we need to temper our expectations before we go and crown this man like the Messiah. Like I don't think
time.
that. Okay, I don't think that he's obviously not going to be like Deshaun Watson bad, but he's also not Joe Montana or Patrick Mahomes or anything like that. Like he's just your run of the mill quarterback right now, and they're doing a pretty good job of giving him some pretty damn easy passes. Like he has an expected completion percentage of 68%. So like I'd hope that he's completing some of these passes, but at the same time, his success rate is only 46.2%, meaning
my weapons have been healthy. Yeah, my weapons ain't been fully healthy. I mean, we had the Leonard game where I had Keenan Allen, Adunze, and DJ Moore and Cole Kmet. And what happened?
Oh my god! Well, look who you played.
Huh? I can only play who's on my schedule.
Oh, so now I can only play who's on my schedule. Okay, look at the matchups and
everything. If he laid an egg last week, I feel like you'd be ripping into him if he laid an egg against the Jaguars. But if he does good against the Jaguars, you're like, oh, that's what you're supposed to do. I don't know what you want.
Bro,
you keep playing. You play your game, Caleb. All right. Don't let people like Drew out here. At the end of the day, you said you all care about wins. You 4-2. Somehow, some way, in this twisted universe in the NFC North, 4-2 is last place in the division. But don't worry about that.
Like
any more thoughts on that?
In terms of when quarterbacks are under pressure, PFF has this stat where it shows a breakdown of what ends up happening on that play. Like, do you throw it away? Do you get sacked? Do you scramble? What do you do? Do you know who is second to last on that there stat there, sir? Your boy,
nope,
Caleb Williams.
I think that's a stupid stat.
Whenever he's under pressure, only 44% of the time does he at least get a target onto a wide receiver or near a wide receiver. Well, kind of like we talked about before.
It's called
Sometimes those targets, like Deshaun Watson's targets, aren't all created equally. So if only 44% of those are quote unquote a target, that's a little suspect. I'm just saying. And of
growing
that,
pains.
okay, of that too, 7% of that is scrambles. Okay, that's nice. 16% is a sack. Okay, well that's also one of the highest in the league, second highest in the league actually, only to the Chiefs, or sorry, not sacks, throwaways, only to the Chiefs
Mm-hmm.
there. In terms of sacks, he's even worse, 27%. And then finally, whenever it comes to batted balls and everything, 6%. Right below him is Washington. With Washington, oh no, it's 41% of targets. Okay, that looks really bad. But you also have 33% scrambles, and we know what Jaden Daniels can do with his legs. I'm just saying, Jaden Daniels,
Mm-hmm.
lock it up,
Mm.
rookie of the year. It's in the bag. I'm not gonna over exaggerate and say MVP as well, because Lamar is still doing Lamar things. Um, but at the same time,
Oh yeah, he's
he's
definitely a
he's got a
MVP candidate.
chance.
Probably like top
So
three. So moving on to the NFC South, we have Atlanta, who was able to get things turned around after their tough loss in Week 1, sitting at the top of the division at 4-2, tied with the Buccaneers. The offense actually looks like an offense. Kirk Cousins is actually getting Drake London involved and is actually like a number one receiver. Kyle Pitts has been a little inconsistent, but he's actually gotten decent volume. And Bijan Robinson's looked good. Hasn't necessarily been like the breakout season from Bijan that we thought we were going to have with utilization, but still been very good. So, they just had a win against the Panthers. Panthers aren't anything great, but prior to that, they did have an overtime win against the Buccaneers, which is why they have the tiebreaker against them right now. So that was a big win. I think the Falcons, obviously, I think they're going to be a playoff team. I think that I really like the Buccaneers too. That's the thing, though, too. And I really honestly feel like the Buccaneers probably should have won that game against the Falcons, but when it's prime time, Kirk Cousins
you like
been like
that?
solid. He been eating. He had the prime time comeback against the Eagles. He had the comeback drive against the Buccaneers. And hey, Kirko. Good one, Kirko things. So thoughts on the Falcons? Do you have them winning this division going forward at this point? And do you think that they could make any noise in the playoffs, potentially knocking off or upsetting the team?
Yeah, I mean that was one of the teams that I had pretty big hopes on in the preseason. One of the three teams that I made preseason bets on to win the division. Mainly because I just the Saints were going to be so bad. I was surprised that they won these first three games. And then the Buccaneers. Um, honestly, I'm surprised. I don't know why I'm surprised that they're still like doing this well. Um,
Hey, Baker
but I would,
Mayfield been MVP
yeah,
candidate,
and
goddamn
so like I wasn't expecting them to be playing this well and having Baker just be this dominant as he has been. But at the same time, with the Falcons, they started off slow, like
mm-hmm.
real slow, and Kirk was looking like a statue back there, and he was getting blasted on just about
Looking
every
like
play.
Desmond Ritter for a second.
um, and but then you play against Philly, you get a W because Philly can't stop anything. Play against Kansas City, keep it close and respectable. Okay, things are turning around. Then you play against the Saints, have an offensive outburst, and that kind of got the ball rolling there. Granted, again, look at the schedule. The Saints on
I
defense.
mean, the Saints were rolling high though. That was when the Saints were 2-0. We actually thought that they were going to be decent. The Falcons brought
Well,
them back to
what
reality.
happened since then?
The Falcons brought them back to reality.
Exactly, exactly. Like okay, and then they had Tampa Bay after that. Tampa Bay is middle of the pack defense, but at the same time they had a litany of injuries in the secondary, as well as their linebacking core, and their heart and soul is within their linebacking core as well. They got Vita Vea back that game, which limited the rushing for Bijan, but that was nothing for Kirk Cousins, as he just lit it up out there.
Oh my
And then he
beer.
followed up that performance
500
against
yards.
hey, something light. And then he followed up that performance by playing against one of the worst secondaries and worst defenses in the league, that being the Carolina Panthers, where they, in terms of like expected EPA per play, um, 0.147 EPA per play. So not not exactly a defense that you can say, oh wow, we really figured out our offense now, because since we beat this team, like, sure, you're putting up all this offense and everything, that's great, but do it against an actual defense. Granted, they get the Seahawks this week. Again, not a great
Hey,
defense. And then
hey.
they get Tampa Bay, so that we already know what they did against them. And then they get Dallas and New
Mm-hmm.
York, or the Saints, and then they play against
Mm-hmm.
Denver. When they play against Denver, that'll be a good competition. Um, I'll consider that one a serviceable matchup
From a
to
defense
test them.
standpoint.
Will they probably beat them? Probably. Yeah, it'll probably be like,
Yeah.
5.5, 6 point favorites. No, and actually it's at Denver, so maybe like 4.5, 5 point favorites, depending on how the rest of the season goes for Denver at that point. But yeah. Anyways,
Fair enough. Fair enough. As we mentioned, also have the Bucks sitting at 4-2. Yeah, I think that I didn't necessarily expect the Bucks to like regress, but I didn't think that they were gonna, have a chance to win the division. So Baker Mayfield has been a borderline MVP candidate. I think it has a lot to do with like the reemergence of Chris Godwin. We both talked about it, him moving back to the slot and what he was most commonly used to, and what he basically had his breakout season when he was a sophomore. So has been soaking up targets from Baker Mayfield. Mike Evans, inconsistent, but still doing Mike Evans things when it comes to touchdowns and being a red zone monster. And then you also have Bucky Irvin, who's kind of been kind of like a decent running back compared to Rachaad White, who's been very, very inefficient. Didn't play last week, so ended up having the Bucky Irvin being the number one running back. But you also had the rookie for them, who apparently is also Barry Sanders, because he had like 10 carries for like 144 yards and a couple touchdowns. So just a little bit more electricity, a little bit more explosiveness. Rachaad White, I feel like, is still going to be the lead back when he is healthy, but it's
just
slowly
muddied the
veering away
water.
and veering more toward, yeah, more towards that. So I think the Buccaneers are still going to be a good team. I think that at this point, I would probably still have them as a wild card team, because I still think that they are going to probably be, yeah, I think they're going to be like a 9-8 type team. So do you have any different thoughts on the Buccaneers going forward, or do you feel like they're going to eventually start to fall off a little bit more and Baker's going to come back to earth? As you mentioned, you talked about the other schedule, but they play the Falcons, the Chiefs, the 49ers, the Giants, and the Panthers. So the next 3 games is tough.
Yeah, and I mean that's the wild thing too, is that so last season they had a lot of luck going their way, where I believe they led the league in third down conversion percentage. This year they're currently second in third down conversions over expected, at 10.5%, only behind the Ravens at 10.6%. So literally a tenth of a percentage point, and then they're back at number one again. And in
Mm-hmm.
terms of trips to the red zone, they're one of the best teams at least giving themselves a chance to get the ball in the end zone, and they're also one of the best in terms of converting those chances as well. They're fourth right there in the league at 23 trips to the red zone per game. The main thing being their run game. Like, if they can get their run game going, then that's going to be a very dangerous offense, especially with Baker Mayfield, like you said, playing at MVP caliber type level, with a success rate of 53.4%, number one in the league. Second person behind him is Lamar Jackson. Third person, Joe Burrow.
Mm-hmm.
Fourth person, Patrick Mahomes. I think that's pretty good company to be in. I'm just
Solid,
saying.
solid.
Um, Granted, they are giving him some pretty easy throws, and there's a lot of yak to be had for this team. Like, expected completions percentage of 71.4%, which tells you that those are some pretty damn easy throws to make.
Yeah,
And you should make those. And he is. He has completions percentage of 71.3, so he's right along line with that. And he's also has one of the most shallow depths of of or one of the most shallow air yards too. So that's where that yard
catching this
after.
Chris Godwin.
Exactly. So yeah, just give it to Chris Godwin and then just let him run after catch. Essentially, is what they're doing. Um, but yeah, again, it goes back to the running game and stuff. If they can get that going, I'm not crowning them or anything, but I'm saying that they have a pretty solid chance of being uh, a contender late in the season, even if their defense is middle of the pack. And if they can get some guys back and healthy, I think that they can make some real noise there in the playoffs. Because
Yeah,
again, MVP Baker is back.
yeah. As long as they can maintain that offense, and like you said, I feel like the running game, as they do kind of give the reins more to Bucky as opposed to Rashad, I feel like it's going to open up the offense more. And then, as you mentioned, as they continue to get healthy from a defensive side of things, then they become kind of a dangerous team. And if Baker gets hot going into the playoffs, it could be a scary thing.
One other thing too, with I don't even remember the guy's name. Like he's not going to be relevant in a couple weeks, anyways. But their rookie running back, wasn't
Bro,
it like he like going into the fourth quarter, he only had like 3 carries or something like that, and then
yeah.
into the fourth
It
quarter,
was it low key pissed me off because I had Bucky Irvin starting, and this guy here, I don't know who he thinks he is, but
legit. And I mean, just
oh
because
man,
of like
he deserves his flowers. Sean
yeah,
Tucker.
yeah, Sean Tucker. Like, and because of that performance, they went from 32nd in the league, 32nd or like 31st or something like that in the league in terms of EPA per play, all the way up to, I believe, let's see here. Um, they are at fifth.
Yeah,
Be-
man's had 14
like,
carries for 136 yards and a touchdown, and 3 receptions for 56 yards and a touchdown. Now I'm damn near 200 yards of total offense from Sean Tucker. Just light
crazy.
work, you know.
Yeah.
Also, that game was kind of weird too because the Buccaneers are absolutely blowing out the Saints. I think they're almost like up by 21-0, and then the Saints literally rallied back to take the lead. And then the
Mhm.
Buccaneers were like, okay, let me start trying again. And then they, ended up, closing it out pretty handily. But I was like,
Mhm.
well, hold on, Spencer Rattler, what's going on
Legit.
here?
They
He's showing
scored
some
all of
flashes.
they scored all their points in the second quarter.
Legit. I
Like,
was like, what is happening?
mhm.
So yeah, so Saints touched on them a few times. They are Pazu who they thought that we were. So they've lost the last 4 in a row. Derek Carr is hurt. Probably not playing next or tomorrow. And then the Panthers are the Panthers. We didn't really talk about it since, but obviously Andy Dalton ended up taking over. Bryce Young, they ended up shelving him. Don't know what they're going to do there. Because at that point, like I feel like that's just like a confidence thing and like a mind frame. Like, how do you like get past that if you're Bryce Young? Like, that's
Mhm.
tough. So the Panthers offense actually looks decent with Andy Dalton. Deontay Johnson ended up getting a lot more volume. The running, I can't remember what's the running back's name for them. Ended up being a lot more involved, a lot
Chuba
more
Hubbard.
efficient. Yeah, Chuba Hubbard. They're supposed to get Jonathan Brooks. I guess he was taken off of the IR, and he's supposed to potentially make his debut for this upcoming weekend. So, I mean, I guess a couple things to look forward if you're a Panthers fan. But yeah, not many high expectations for the Saints or the Panthers for this season.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, um, I'm still gonna be sweating out my Saints under 7.5 win total.
I think he'd be all right.
I mean, if they start doing some crazy stuff again, like they were doing in the beginning of the season, I
I
don't
mean,
know.
they can go on a little road streak. I mean, they got the Broncos, and who knows? Maybe they could shock the Chargers, and they got the Panthers, and obviously you got the Falcons, and you got the Browns, and the Rams, then the
Hmm.
Giants. So I mean, hey,
Yeah, like I,
maybe.
I have them I have them finishing with 6 wins.
Mhm.
So like, hopefully, hopefully that stays under. Um, but yeah, I mean, as far as the Panthers go, like I, you know. there was no real expectation going into the
Mhm.
season that they would really do anything um, productive this season, especially with Bryce Young under center. I am still. It is beyond me how they. Well, actually, I do know how they beat the Raiders. They had Andy Dalton, um, but even in that
Yeah.
game, they tried their hardest to give it away and um, and have the Raiders win that game, but they able to hold on. And now I, I'm kind of struggling to see where they're gonna get their next win. Um, like I
Yeah,
on my preseason ratings and everything, I literally had them down for one win. So
bro. All
like
right.
I like obviously they're well, maybe not obviously, but maybe they'll win another game. Um,
Mhm.
but I'm not sure when. It might be against Denver. Um, but other than that, I they're is not looking good in terms of the schedule. So
Yeah. So finishing out with the NFC West, it's been a very weird division. The 49ers are currently sitting at the top at 3-3 as they just beat the Seahawks last week on Thursday Night Football. Obviously, been battling through major injuries. Christian McCaffrey hasn't played all season. Debo's been in and out of the lineup. Now you have Jordan Mason, who ended up having a shoulder injury and is questionable for this upcoming game. But I mean, they just kind of feeling at running back because Isaac Rendo like went in and then just got a smooth 100 yards for no reason. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, they've been. Oh, I don't know. It's weird because like I feel like Brock Purdy's been playing well, but they had some bad losses. So they had the loss to the Rams, they had the loss to the Cardinals, and then um, I just don't know how much to chalk that up to, injuries and just to, make it easy and say it's that, or if there's actually a major problem with the 49ers going forward. So they have the big game against the Chiefs, and they have the Cowboys, and they have the Buccaneers, and they have the Seahawks again, then they have the Packers, and they have the Bills. So they have like a gauntlet coming up here. And then after that, you have the Bears to finish it off, if you're wondering. But yeah, they have a gauntlet going up. So what are your expectations for the 49ers? This was my Super Bowl pick. So Super Bowl pick from the NFC, not Super Bowl pick to win. But yeah, so thoughts on them, and are you concerned?
um, I mean, we all know that I was on the win total under, so
Yeah, Drew wished injuries upon people.
yeah.
That's fucked up.
Okay. No, I mean, all I said was that you know a historically unhealthy team was completely healthy for the majority of the season. Like that, I like if that doesn't scream
Yeah, they,
regression to
they
the
filtered out
mean,
the water last year,
like
but then they went back to normal. This is something, whatever is bad, it's contaminated.
exactly. So with that and everything, like I I do believe that better days are ahead for the 49ers, and I believe that they're this week in particular, they're is going to be one of those games that will put them back on the map and be like, okay, the 49ers are back. Like they're still the top dogs in the NFL. Um,
You have them beating the Chiefs this week, right?
correct. Um, so I think that again going forward into going through the rest of the season, um, it's gonna be tough because the first games that they were playing, those were supposed to be like
Oh, yeah, it's supposed to be
pretty
the
much,
gimmies.
yeah, those those supposed to pretty much be maybe like one loss, maybe
Mm-hmm.
two.
Seahawks probably should have been 5-1, 4-2.
Yeah, like they shouldn't be 3-3 right now. And
Yeah, the Cardinals
arguably,
loss was bad. So was
yeah,
the Rams loss. So
and I mean, arguably, they probably should have lost to Minnesota as well, or sorry, they probably should have lost to New York as well. Um, like, yeah, it does get kind of tough in the back half of the season, which is why I played
hmm
their win total under. Um, But at the same time, I would love to see the Seahawks turn their life around because
Bro.
I have them winning the division, and I was looking like a goddamn genius there for a second when
Yeah, the Seahawks started off 3-0, and they were 0-3 with a loss to the Giants in the middle of that
Mhm.
because we let somebody go scot free on a game tying field goal. This man's like, you know what? I'm athletic. I know I can't touch the oh my.
Yep.
I'm just jump over the whole line and just block this field goal.
Dude, he
Uh,
didn't. He like volleyball spiked that thing. It wasn't just fly.
bro.
Like,
Yeah. So yeah, we're yeah. Moving on to the Seahawks, we're 3-3. It's great. Looking like my fantasy team out here. Um, it's so weird though too because like we have the offense is it's I mean we have the weapons. Kenneth Walker obviously has been in and out of the lineup, so that kind of makes things a little tough. But Zach Charbonnet's filled in as a formidable backup. Jackson Smith and Jigba has definitely gotten more involved, but we've just been having a tough time converting at certain times. We've had a tough time getting stops at certain times, and been missing our field goals too. That doesn't really help things too much either. But yeah,
mhm.
Seahawks doing Seahawk things. So we have a big one against the Falcons this week. So that's going to kind of tell me a lot going forward on what team we're actually going to be because we've kind of showed the best of both worlds and the worst of both worlds. So yeah, based off of your predictions, I'm assuming that you have the Seahawks getting out of this little rut that we've tuck ourselves into, or what?
I mean, in
For this
in
defensive young guru, I ain't seeing too much. It looks okay when you're playing against Bo Nix,
no
but
legit, like,
oh yeah,
yeah, in theory, they would kind of start turning things around and everything. Um,
mm-hmm.
but at the same time, I I don't really want much to do with them. And the scary thing is, my model likes them this week. Um,
Good.
and yeah, hmm, I don't know about that. I
Yeah,
you know, and
yeah. I don't.
but that's also the thing too. That I like why I ended up taking them is that they've lost three in a row. But
Right.
and so there's this perception of, okay, this team is maybe a dead team. Like they're
Yeah,
actually
we're
not as good
reeling.
as we thought they were when they initially started out 3-0. And then you have Kirk Cousins and the boys coming to town, and they're red hot. They're blowing teams out. They're putting up 500 plus yards on the offense and stuff. Um, like I might be tempted. I very well could be tempted. Not gonna
Like
lie.
dabble.
The model is 62% right now through the first 6 weeks of the season. So and I might sprinkle the money line on that too. Um,
Mm.
that's interesting for sure.
Yeah. So rounding out the rest of the NFC West, you have the Cardinals, who are sitting at 2-4, which is so weird because you had the start of the season where they are giving the Bills a run for their money, and they actually go to this huge lead, and the Bills end up walking them down, all that kind of stuff. It's like, okay, you were supposed to lose to the Bills. Then they blow out the Rams, so you're like, okay, wow, the Cardinals actually are a good team, or at least their offense is going to be elite this year, or not elite, but great with Kyler Murray, and they're just going to outscore teams or have to outscore teams. But then since then, their point total against the Lions was 13. Against the Commanders, it was 14. And the Commanders are not a good defense, as we talked about. Against the 49ers, they had 24, but against the Packers, they had 13. So their offense has just been abysmal lately. Part of that, I guess you could say, is because of the lack of having Marvin Harrison for this last game. But overall, they've had their full array of weapons. So thoughts on the Cardinals or where they go from here? Because you already have Kyler locked up. You drafted Marvin Harrison, so I mean, maybe it's not looking pretty for them though. It seems just kind of like a lost year.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, like most folks weren't. Well, at least I wasn't expecting them to be like
I thought they'd
contenders
be
this.
competitive.
I mean, yeah, I thought that they would be like a pretty high scoring offense, but I
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't expecting them to come out with wins. I think kind of what you were getting at there is that the scoring output isn't even close to what we were expecting to see,
Mhm.
And that is ultimately the major downfall too, is that they their defense is also letting them down. And whenever you have a bad defense, you can't really play to some of your strengths, which would be running the ball with James Conner, because then you're just running on the clock, don't really have an opportunity uh, to set up the play action pass, can't really run, or they're not really running um, him as a runner, and that's what ultimately makes him dangerous. That's what makes him look like Lamar Jackson and everything. But if they're not allowing him to do that, then that's not going to really open up the offense that much for them. Right now, they're sitting at 19th in the league in terms of third down conversions over expected there, and like they're just not putting themselves in good positions to be successful. They're always finding themselves in third and long, as opposed to running maybe a couple shorter plays instead of taking like the deep bomb passes down the field. We know Kyler Murray can throw the ball, but
Marvin's
they're
down there somewhere.
yeah, like but they're not connecting on them, and that's ultimately the problem, is that they're taking too many risks and not having nearly really any reward out of it. And you can do that all you want, but you're just going to be sitting next to Deshaun Watson without a job. So
Yep. So, and then lastly, you have the Rams, who we've talked about it, kind of ended up being a lost season with the injury to Puka Nakua, with the injuries to Cooper Cup. Cooper Cup's supposed to have a chance to play this season, or play this week upcoming, as he's been a limited participant in practice. But I mean, you thought that you would have like one of the better wide receiver tandems in the league, or at least wide receiver duos when it comes to Cooper Cup and Puka Nakua, with Matthew Stafford, who is starting to get up there in age, but ended up being Tutu Atwell, Tyler Johnson show because of these injuries. So yeah, the Rams are, again, it's been another lost season due to injury, which is very unfortunate for them, because a lot of people ended up having the Rams initially in the preseason as kind of like a potential dark horse, just because they thought their offense was going to be elite when you have those two wide receivers, when you have Kyren Williams, but it just hasn't come to fruition due to these injuries. So any thoughts on the Rams?
yeah, I mean, it is pretty tough for them in terms of like what could have been kind of offensive season, and that was like the main thing that everybody's looking forward to. We already knew the defense was going to be bad. Like that's no
Mm-hmm.
surprise. But
That could be top five offense, though.
yeah, it was supposed to be top tier talent out there and stuff too, but everyone and their mom got hurt, and that was the other thing as well with last year. Same kind of thing with San Fran. They were all pretty much healthy most of the season, and you know, I mean, I don't want to say regression to the mean, but regression to the mean happened again, and here we are. Um, Another interesting little factoid here is that in terms of the outcome that happens whenever a quarterback drops back to pass, in particular on the LA Rams, you can expect a target to be thrown about 89% of the time. On that same scale, that's kind of where we were looking at your boy Caleb Williams and how bad he was and stuff. On the flip side, that's where you see the Rams, surprisingly, um,
Oh.
89% of the time, every time they drop back, they'll at least try and get the ball to somebody, and that's a more of a scheme thing than anything, and that's what Sean McVay. That's his thing. He can scheme you and me open if he wanted to. He can scheme my grandma open if he wanted to. Grandma's
So this
birthday's
year
in a
it's
couple
also been a
days
lot,
too,
because
so like
they want to throw the ball a lot, but they've also just been trailing a lot. So
yeah,
they've been checking it out there. So
yeah. So
nope.
um, you know, so what could have been season, and
Mhm.
hopefully next year they can get a little bit healthier and then kind of go from there. One last note on them, real quick too, is that if I do recall, you were out there saying, "Dude, the drop off of Aaron Joe or of Aaron Donald isn't even that much, bro. Like they're not even gonna miss him, dude. Like what the hell, bro? That's what you sound like too. That's how you said it. Um, They're
Oh, is
currently
it?
they're currently second to last in EPA per play on the defensive end at 0.65 0.165.
Okay.
The next team is
Well,
Jacksonville. We know how bad Jacksonville is. So I'm
we
just
all
saying.
know that their defense hasn't been good, but the one game that you take out from the Cardinals, other than that, I mean, like it hasn't been good, but it hasn't been bad. They have 26 to the Lions, 24 to the Bears, 24 to the Packers, and it could have been worse. But their offense has not been able to do shit. So I mean, like I don't know what you want the defense to do. It's like, wow, man,
I want them to
we're
stop the
supposed to
ball.
have
That's
these
what
all
that's what I
pros.
want them to
We're
do.
supposed to have it's kind of degrading. You're supposed to have these all pros on the offense and stuff. Give me a little break, but nah,
Well, I
we ain't
mean, the
got
Jets
nobody
did it
to
last
move the
year.
ball.
The Jets did it last year, and they had Zach Wilson as quarterback. They got
Yeah,
this
and we
the
talked about
savior.
that. Zach Wilson has been up until the first 6 weeks has played better than Aaron Rodgers had this year. So I mean,
I'm
I
just saying,
digress.
like if the Rams have this savior and Matthew Padford, like
Mm-hmm.
they should be in the Super Bowl every year. Like,
If they're throwing it to me and you, I don't know what you want. I don't know what you want me to do. They're coming up with new names for people at this point. I don't even know who these people are. I know who Tutu is, but then there'll be some random name that I'm like, oh, right,
Was
yep,
like Whitcomb or something like that. I thought they had
yep, straight
Andrew Whitworth back out
Whitcomb.
there. I was like, you
I was
man,
like,
cut some
bro,
weight.
yeah. So Matthew Stafford out here running for his life, straight dying out here because we ain't got. So hopefully your boy Cooper Cup, you know,
Shoot, I don't
does
know, man.
something. But that has been the jam-packed episode. We covered the entire league and the division. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover real quick before we get out of here for this upcoming weekend?
Um, yeah, a couple things here before I dip, dodge, duck, and dive and dodge on out of here. Um,
Yeah.
the picks that I got going on for this week. Uh, I I'm just gonna go with straight model picks and just kind of go from there, and then I'll add
Mm-hmm.
on plus or minus a couple. So rapid fire here. Got the Broncos -2.5. You know me, I'm taking the money line as always. I got the Colts. It's kind of yeah,
Ew.
Colts. I don't like Anthony Richardson. I, I and he's gonna be back this week. Whatever the model says it, we're doing it. Uh, so Colts money line because I don't like taking the -3 there. Um, I'm done betting on the Titans, so I don't care if it's plus 17. I'm not taking them. I am done. Every
Bro.
time I've played them, I've lost. So they're a dead team to me. Even though the model
Okay.
says it, doesn't matter. Um,
Mm-hmm.
they're playing against the Bills this week, -9. Moving on. The Seahawks, +3. You like it. I love it. I believe they're getting like 29% of the bets right now too. So
Mm-hmm.
very contrarian, like we talked about too. Great spot for them. Playing the underdog there. I like the Bengals as well. The Browns are a dead team. The model likes them even regardless of having knowledge that Amari Cooper is no longer there.
Mm-hmm.
So like them. We also like the Raiders +7. Um, I don't I don't think in any world where like the Rams are at the current state that they are in right now that they
And
should be
Cooper Cup
laying
might have
7.
15 receptions and 4 touchdowns.
That's right.
As soon as he comes back, Matthew Stafford's like, all right,
Did
here's
they?
every single target.
That's it. I missed you. Where were you?
Shit, it's been too long.
um, did they confirm that he was going to be back, or is it
No, they
like
just said
he's
he was a
trending?
limited participant in practice. So, like, obviously
Okay,
it's trending in the right direction, but nothing's been confirmed.
Raiders +7.
Okay. Good.
um,
I had a few of those same ones. I had the Seahawks +3 because we need to do something, Drew. This is ridiculous at this point. I have the I have the Texans. I understand that the offense is still going to be a little, degraded even without Nico Collins, but I just don't like the Packers at this point. I'm saying, and I'll take the Texans with the points. I got the Eagles -3. This is going to be a revenge game for Saquon, so I feel like they're going to do everything that they can to get him the ball. Plus, I think the Eagles are just a better team. I feel like this is going to be like one of their games where they actually do potentially have a blowout against the Giants, who still could be without Malik Neighbors, which is kind of crazy. I don't know if it's just been this year or whatever with the concussion protocols, but we talked about it before the show started. Like it's like 2 weeks now at this point, like minimum. Like because Malik was out 2 weeks, Devontae Smith was out 2 weeks. Like, yeah, the concussions, the NFL's really been kind of bunkering down on those and making sure that they completely go through the protocol and stuff. Ends up being more than 2 weeks, but yeah. Lastly, give me the Eagles -3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't hate them.
Of course.
Oh, and then the other one I had was 49ers money line as well.
Give me the Chiefs +2 right now.
+2, it's +1 right now, man.
Is it?
Yeah, at least
that's 1.5.
Yeah.
Give me 1.5.
I'll take money line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And then going with the Commanders as well. I think this is going to be an absolute bloodbath. I don't think that 8 is enough.
What you gonna do to come next week, Drew? If we come into this show and Caleb Williams outperform Jaden Daniels, and
dude,
you know what I'm saying,
who are they playing?
And now has the better record. The Bears play the Commanders. It's gonna be Jaden Daniels versus Caleb.
Not this week.
Yeah, they do. Oh shoot! What am I thinking of a different week? Never mind.
They had a bye this week?
The Commanders play the Panthers. The Bears play the Commanders next week. I think the Bears are on bye this week.
Okay, yeah. Well,
come next week. They're gonna be disgusting. I can't wait to talk about that.
Dude, I cannot run to the book fast enough to place whatever bet that is. That let me look at the line right now.
Because it's a perfect situation. It's a perfect trap game because the Commanders can't stop a nosebleed. Caleb Williams is improving every single week as a quarterback, and the Bears got a good defense. So,
bro, let me see here. So they're playing next week. Let's see what the line is.
And you already know that the Commanders are probably going to be like +6 or some random.
Right. I was going to say before I look at what the line is. You think it's gonna be Commanders by 6?
It's gonna be it's gonna be, and it's Commanders are at home, so yeah, it's gonna be probably Commanders like +5.5, 6.
5.5, 6. I'll say that's probably a good line. I'll say Commanders. I'll say Commanders 4.5. Yeah, we'll see. Let me see here.
They're at home. Yeah, they're gonna be like, they're probably 2 or 3 point better on a neutral, and you know what I'm saying? They're home, blah, 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 blah. Stupid.
-1.5.
Oh my God.
I'm screaming. Hold on, let me place this right now.
Thank you. I'm glad Vegas gave some respect, put some respect on that name. It's not just Caleb, Drew, it's that defense. All right?
I don't even care how public of a play this is.
Look, the Commanders can't stop anything.
Can I max bet this?
Okay. I emptied the bank account today.
Mm-hmm. So come this time next week
with the Commanders at home, that's crazy.
I mean, and that's the thing too. It's
just goes to show who's the better team.
Okay, stop it. It's because of the Commanders' defense. They can't stop anything.
Yeah, it's a shootout every single time, and Bears it's been a shootout.
Bears have a pretty decent defense.
Yeah. When you had a shootout against the Ravens and the Bengals, both of them defenses are tissue paper. The Bears defense, good.
Yeah, while I'm here too, I'm going to take the over on that. It's 47.5. Yeah. 47 is a key number. Yeah.
23, 24, yeah.
Take the over on that as well. Okay, let me lock that in real quick before that shit moves. If you see the market move, it was because of me. I just
Drew put $50,000. It's like why are Commanders? Why is it Commanders -7 now? I don't understand what's going
on. But yeah, those are the young plays there. And and I do have some plays on the totals and stuff, but I'll just put that into the app there.
Thanks. We are pushing past 2 hours.
Yeah. Damn.
So
beefy
let's close
episode
this out
here.
real quick. So yeah, this has been a jam-packed episode.
One last thing real quick. Shout out to Sabrina Ionescu, absolute
dagger
baller. Like,
that's a bad shot.
Yeah, exactly. Said, hold this for me. Buckets. That is, she missed the one before it. It went right back to her. The whole plan was ISO at the top, just like how they would do with Steph. Ball game. So,
and shout out your Dodgers, Drew. 8-0 today.
Absolutely. Shout out to the Dodgers as well. Getting the job done finally in the postseason. I think it's because they haven't trotted out Clayton Kershaw this season into the postseason. So that means that we actually might have a chance. And my future bets that I had on the Royals to win the AL sadly came to an end. That was more of like a pipe dream that I had. It was like a $5 bet.
Okay, you just had that ahead of time. You didn't have them specifically beating the Yankees and all that.
I placed that like beginning of the season. It was like
gotcha.
It was something crazy. It was like $5 to win like 500 or something like that. I was you
ain't gonna cash out.
Yeah, well, I mean, I hedged.
Okay.
Yeah, so that, I mean, nothing crazy, but yeah, still made it out alive, so it's good. But that's all I got. Also, your boy ran his first half marathon while we were away as well too. Got my young medal here, so
it's fake shit, fake.
Okay. Okay. So Boston, here we come. You know what I'm saying?
What high school cross country athlete did you steal that from, Drew?
Okay, all right. Anyways,
no, kudos to that. It's very impressive. I would die literally.
Thank you.
But yeah, that'll close out this episode, everybody. So like I said, we apologize for missing the past few weeks, but hopefully this jam-packed episode was able to get us back on the right track. So other than that, this has been the Collie Shot Podcast with your hosts, Alix and Drew Moore. Still make sure to follow us on all of our social medias, be on Instagram or where we get our picks, as well as be put on our podcast where you can find your normal podcasts, being on podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you can see
Apple,
us.
Google, Amazon,
Banana.
You know the drill. We got it. Anywhere you want your podcast, we got it. You know what I mean? We got it. If you want it in jail,
all right. Anyway, we'll see y'all next week.
If you want it in your room, we got it. All right. Anyways, peace out.
Deuces.